North Jacksonville, the consolidation story from civil rights to the Jaguars. But first, we focus on one of Jacksonville's historic neighborhoods, St. Nicholas. Our guests are Jan Miller from St. Nicholas Area Preservation and Councilwoman Suzanne Jenkins. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you.
Glad to have you with us on the show.
Glad to be here.
Where is St. Nicholas, first of all, Jan, just for people who may not know?
For our St. Nicholas Area Preservation, it starts on the east side of Bishop Kenny and goes to the Liberty Community Church on Atlantic, which used to be Mayfair Baptist Church, and all the streets back there to the river.
And there are some people probably on the fringe of that area who think they live in St. Nicholas, but technically don't live in that precisely drawn-up area.
Right. I wouldn't mind including all of them, but that's it.
And just briefly, what's the historical aspect of the neighborhood?
Well, we have history back to the late 1700s, where there was actually a fort where the Bishop Kenny Athletic Field is now, mostly run by the Spanish. And then there were land grants in the territory that is now our neighborhood, 2 land grants, 2 families. And all the streets, or most of the streets in our neighborhood, are named after these people. And we have houses built, several, maybe 4 or 5, that were built back in the late 1800s. And
Suzanne Jenkins is here because she is the district councilwoman for that area.
Well, that's right. And I also grew up in the neighborhood. My parents, when my father was transferred here from South Carolina, we ended up buying a home in St. Nicholas, and that's where I spent my teenage years and growing up. So I have a vested interest personally, as well as the council person for the area. And you're right when you say others claim St. Nicholas, because the other side of Atlantic and Beach, even though it's Spring Park, if you look on their deeds, it says St. Nicholas. So it is a large area that was termed St. Nicholas back then.
And you have an interesting council district that includes an assortment of areas, generally South Side neighborhoods, but also part of downtown.
That's correct. I have mostly the older neighborhoods of South Side that were built as soon as the bridge crossed the river. And I kept part of downtown because the synergy between the two is still very important, and they really do rely on each other. As one rises, so will the other, and it's important that we make sure downtown is a viable community for residential, retail, and office space.
Now, we're talking about town centers. We're going to take a look at some visuals here, and you can take a look at the monitor and tell us what we're looking at, Jan and Suzanne. But a town center is planned for St. Nicholas, and there we see it on the screen. Tell us a little bit about what that is all about, Jan.
It was through the Better Jacksonville plan, I think, with a lot to do with Suzanne Jenkins, including older neighborhoods, to push for that plan, that you had to be a neighborhood of at least, a shopping district of at least 30 years old or older, which we qualify. 1930 was most of our buildings, or up to 1950. And you had to be on a main corridor. And so we qualified that way. You had to fill out applications. There are 3 different phases. So we won the first phase to get this visioning plan to renovate the public areas in the district that we just described. New sidewalks, new historical lighting and benches and landscaping. And hopefully that'll motivate realtors and developers to come back in, and the owners of these businesses to renovate, to make it like it used to be back in the 30s, with businesses that would accommodate all the surrounding neighborhoods, that we could even just walk to for dinner, for shopping for groceries, or for the drugstore, that kind of thing. That's what we want back.
Suzanne, as we look at another visual, it's a major corridor.
Absolutely.
In Jacksonville, coming down off the Fuller Warren Bridge into South Side.
Exactly. Beach and Atlantic come together there, or split off depending on which way you're coming in. And so it is one of our premier corridors to downtown, and it is an older corridor that needs a little, what I call a facelift. And that's really what town centers do. It allows an organized community to come together with the businesses along that corridor and say, we need a vision. What do we want to look like in the next 20 years? What do we want to preserve about what makes us unique? And what do we want to update, and how do we do it? And that's what St. Nicholas did along with the businesses in that area, and came up with a plan. Jan's right. I did lobby Mayor Delaney when he passed Better Jacks. I said, you left out the older neighborhoods. we needed a little help. I gave them all the information on town centers because I had worked with the Jack's Pride board that I serve on with a lot of land planners and architects and landscape architects. And this was really born out of that boardroom, and went to the mayor with it and was able to sell them on it. It's a reinvestment of our dollars into our own city, and it makes sense.
Well, one of the problems in a growing city is there may occasionally be emphasis on the growing areas, the new developments,
Well, that's
to the
exactly,
detriment of the older ones.
that's exactly what happens, and it leaves behind what we call the empty donut. And as growth moves out further and further away and we chase it, it's like the new penny, you know, the shiny new penny you want in your pocket instead of the one that's been beat up. And this really allows older neighborhoods to compete with the new growth because it preserves what made that older neighborhood really interesting when it was built. It's like a snapshot in time of our city's history. And by preserving that and creating communities that have quality and character and a place to live that really has its own personality is what makes a community unique. And by doing the town centers and helping those facelifts happen along those commercial corridors that are the front door to those neighborhoods, you're really reinvesting in the city and bringing the growth back so that a community stays sustainable and the business community in that area is sustained growth.
Jan, an increasing number of people want to live in or near the downtown area as opposed to a long commute and so forth. And I imagine you've seen that in property values, and homes go up for sale and they don't stay on the block for very long.
That's right. In fact, my husband was getting out of the car the other day and a lady pulled up and said, "I'm moving here from California. I'll give you $1 million for your house right now." Didn't even care to go inside to see it, but I think with the interest of the Super Bowl coming right there, and our neighborhood does border the river right across from Alltel Stadium, and it's a desirable neighborhood.
And we'll take a look at another visual as we go along here. The neighborhood has a lot of activated citizens, shall we say, people who really care about their neighborhood and are willing to do what is necessary to take care of it.
That's right. We have a neighborhood organization, SNAP, St. Nicholas Area Preservation. We meet quarterly and keep everybody motivated about what's going on.
Now let's take a look at this one. This shows St. Nicholas, a familiar area, Mudville Grill, on top, and below what it will look like once it's reinvented, so to speak, as a town center.
That's 100% improvement, don't you think?
Yeah.
I can't wait to see that happen. We got to get that done.
I know. It is exciting, and the frustration is the length of time it's taken, and we're hoping to improve that. I've talked with the mayor last week and said, you know, we need to ramp up and let's get going on this now that the vision plans have been done. People are ready for action. Let's not let them cool off. Let's keep them involved and active because it's in the city's best interest. These people are our investors. They either own homes or businesses or both in the area, and we need to work with them on it.
And this isn't really a conflict between downtown and another neighborhood. I mean,
not at all. It really, they complement each other. Anytime you can create areas of interest that preserve our history and what we looked like in that particular area when it was built, really adds to the flavor of a city and a community so that no matter what you're looking for, especially in a city the size of Jacksonville, you're going to find it. And whether you want rural, which we have the density now coming downtown and the interesting characteristics of older South Side neighborhoods when they were first built, and they just need the facelift.
Now, St. Nicholas, perhaps San Marco, Riverside, Springfield, are all neighborhoods that are very close to downtown.
Absolutely.
And they see a lot of common interest between what's happening in their own neighborhood and what's happening downtown. They perhaps have the most vested interest of all neighborhoods in seeing downtown happen.
I would agree, but when you start looking at the neighborhoods that surround those as you go out, those are like buffer neighborhoods. And if we don't pay attention to that and continue what I call the trek of the town center down those corridors and start linking these communities, then it's to our own detriment as a city, but also to these core neighborhoods. You've got to have that improvement progress along those corridors so that all ships rise in this rising tide. Then we all stand to benefit from it. If you have your buffer communities and you let them die, then now you haven't solved anything. You start having these blank spots or areas of blight that people, when you have blight, they fly away quickly.
Now, Jan, do you see that articulated by people other than just Suzanne Jenkins.
I sure do.
In City Hall.
And seeing how this, just getting the award of the Town Center grant for the first phase has motivated even the business owners in the St. Nicholas district. It's like it's building and it's building, and they're getting excited about it. So at the end of this month, they're having a meeting to organize, finally, to have a St. Nicholas Business Association.
And there's a really interesting thing. We're going to take a look at another photo, a visual of an old train depot, and now relocated along the area where the town center will be on Atlantic Boulevard. Tell us about this one. There you are.
This was built in the early 1900s, and it was on Linden Avenue in between Beach and Atlantic Boulevard in St. Nicholas. If you just saw it recently, it was covered with vines. You'd never even know it was there. But some doctors wanted that property for parking, so if we wanted to keep it, we had to move it somewhere. And Suzanne found the money somewhere, and we were able to get it moved to the city park right there just to the north or the west of Havana Jacks.
And this was a train depot for a railroad line that ran basically from where to where?
Well, it was the East Coast Railway, and somebody could get a ticket right there in St. Nicholas, the downtown center, to go to the beaches. That's the way they would do it, and that was your way to get to the beaches and back.
Well, Suzanne, update us. You were a key participant in the effort launched by Matt Carlucci in terms of historic preservation downtown.
Absolutely.
So tell us what's happening in that respect.
Well, we have created incentives, so to speak, with historic buildings, that if you get a historic designation, it opens up a lot of tax incentives that you can get from the federal government. And we've created the historic building matrix, so that when the new building code came online, it was in direct conflict with these historic buildings, the very thing that makes them interesting and beautiful. The new building code says you can't have that. By creating this matrix, it really helped developers be able to come in, run the matrix on the building, understand what they needed to do, what they could preserve, and then there's a point system so that you can trade off without trading the public health and welfare and safety. So the fire marshal's happy, the building permitting director's happy, and the owner of the building can preserve those key elements that made that historic building worth saving.
So the city becomes more friendly to historic
Absolutely,
preservation
and we need to be, because you cannot go back and recreate the buildings you've torn down or let fall down. So it's very important that we be what I consider developer friendly, and at least so when they come in, they know what's facing them, they understand how to work the numbers so that it'll make it work financially for them and for our city.
And developers are interested in such projects, right?
I met with two today. They're from New York, and we're now on their radar screen, and they're looking in to come in and buy several significant buildings downtown and just get them online as quickly as possible. We have made, the radar screens of some other big cities in the nation now, and I asked them, I said, what made you pick Jacksonville? And they said, well, we saw what you're doing down here. We've talked to other developers who are interested, and we wanted to kind of be the first in the door, because they understand with the first in the door, the better incentives you get as we get closer. Because I did talk with our mayor and said, if we would commit to 10,000 housing units downtown and send that strong message that we're going to be in the incentive business for multifamily, for housing downtown, until we hit the 10,000 mark, and it would be sliding scale, so as we get closer to it, it'd be less and less incentives. Then that sends a message to the developers and to the retail people that we're serious about downtown and we're in for the long haul.
Suzanne Jenkins, Jan Miller, thank you for being with us.
Thank
Hope
you.
Come back again.